safe here.
As the climate crisis worsened, humanity faced a colossal challenge, with the only solution being to relocate to another planet. Welcome back, everyone. Today, we bring you an extraordinary sci-fi film titled Lost in Space. In the 22nd century, due to the over-exploitation of Earth's resources, humans began exploring space to find a new home. A space station named Resolute encountered an unexpected disaster, forcing the entire crew to relocate to a nearby planet. John and his family planned to leave on the spaceship Jupiter. However, on another part of the station, an unidentified robot civilization attacked them. Unable to fight back, they had no choice but to steer the Jupiter away. The Resolute was instantly destroyed. The massive impact and debris hit one of the Jupiters, knocking it off its pre-calculated course. The ship descended rapidly. After a strong impact, they seemed to have landed. John opened the upper hatch but found it jammed, so he let his son, Will, go out first while the others searched for an exit. Outside, Will found a frozen landscape, and their spaceship was buried in snow. The family emerged, stunned by the sight. Suddenly, the spaceship began sinking into the water. John's wife, Maureen, discovered that the air here contained oxygen. Scans showed that the atmospheric pressure, water sources, and gravity were similar to Earth's. Unfortunately, they were unsure of their location, and in 6 hours the temperature would drop to minus 50 degrees. To survive the cold, they needed to return to the spaceship to find lithium-ion batteries to recharge their spacesuits. Since the nearest entrance was blocked, only Will could do the job. Despite his training, Will was terrified. Judy noticed this and quickly dove into the water, heading into the ship to find the spare batteries. As the water began to freeze into particles and the surface started to ice over, she used all her strength to rise but couldn't outpace the freezing. Judy became trapped beneath the ice. Fortunately, her spacesuit could supply oxygen for 5 hours. John tried to break the ice but found it futile. A bright light caught their attention, giving Will an idea. They entered a cave to get magnesium, but the ground suddenly collapsed. Will fell into an ice cavern and slid down, losing consciousness. John called for him, but received no response. Will woke up and found a way out. He emerged in a dense forest. John faced a tough decision. He would return to save Judy, whose time was running out, leaving Will alone in the forest. Just then, fire dust appeared in the sky, and Will, curious, ventured into the woods, discovering a massive mountain. As he continued, he found the source of the fire dust, an alien spaceship wreck. Will wanted to investigate but sensed something following him. Looking into the forest, he saw something moving. Scared, Will ran and hid under a rock to observe. The mysterious figure followed. Will quickly climbed a tree, and the alien, a two-legged creature, climbed after him. Frightened, Will backed away, unaware of a sharp claw behind him. As the claw lunged, he pressed against the tree. Night fell, and Will remained stuck. A colorful butterfly attracted their attention. The alien, curious, observed the insect, revealing it wasn't native to this planet. The red light on the alien's head dimmed as its energy depleted. Looking down, it realized it was missing its lower body. Meanwhile, the fire from the crash set the forest ablaze, trapping Will and the alien. Will decided to help, using a tool to saw off a tree branch. Grateful, the alien, now reassembled, carried Will to safety. They reached the mountain's summit, where the alien creature extended its claw, curiously observing the boy before quickly transforming into a robot. Meanwhile, John was trying to save his daughter, who was trapped under the ice. He placed magnesium on the ice and lit it. After a bright flash, a hole appeared in the ice, but then thunder roared, and heavy rain extinguished their hope. As the temperature dropped, the hole quickly refroze. John tried to relight the fire but failed. When they were in despair, a robot appeared before them, causing everyone to panic. Seeing the robot, John immediately became defensive. Just then, Will arrived and explained that he had brought the robot there. The robot saw Judy trapped under the ice and issued a warning sound. At Will's plea, it extended its arms, heating the surrounding area and melting the ice. It pulled Judy out, and the family was astonished by the robot's presence. The robot then used its hand to create a warm heater to protect them. On this nameless planet, Maureen examined the alien creature, discovering it wasn't a natural being but created from a robot. They realized for the first time the existence of alien robots. This creature from another planet had lost its memory after the spaceship crashed. Now, it agreed to help the family find the wrecked spaceship, easily melting the ice. 12 hours earlier, the Resolute had been attacked by aliens. A woman impersonated someone else to get on the space station. During the alien attack, she found a wounded female doctor and took her clothes to disguise herself. 2 engineers, lacking a spaceship, planned to hijack the Jupiter. The disguised woman, using the doctor's ID, successfully entered the ship and invited the engineers to join her. When the spaceship exploded, the shock wave knocked the Resolute off course, causing it to fall and disappear into space. Engineer Don awoke to find a chicken in the spaceship on the edge of a cliff. He tried to undo his seatbelt but found it stuck. He used a knife to cut it, but the ship shook violently, causing the knife to fall out. The chicken was also scared. Don called for another engineer but only found Dr. Smith. She threw him the knife, allowing him to free himself. The spaceship was teetering on the edge, and they narrowly escaped danger. They discovered the other engineer had died, so they took some supplies and 3 flares. Don fired a flare but got no response and saw a parachute ahead. They took the chicken and went there. They found a girl who Don thought was dead and took her belongings. She unexpectedly woke up, startling him. The Robinson family was repairing their spaceship when Penny noticed an explosion in the distance. They found wreckage from another Jupiter. Using the radio, they sent signals but found no survivors, unaware of an approaching storm. As the storm neared, Don and Smith moved the injured girl, but had to fire the second flare for help. Meanwhile, Maureen detected a strange audio signal. Will recognized it as coming from the alien spaceship, prompting the family to investigate the crash site. Maureen was stunned to find an alien spaceship. Inside, they found mysterious drawings and heavy damage. Outside, Will played ball with the alien robot, teaching it how to throw. John witnessed this and saw the robot help retrieve the ball, which activated the spaceship's energy. The robot's head turned red, and the spaceship started. They entered a virtual universe, revealing a massive spherical star system, not the Milky Way, indicating they were outside the galaxy. The reasons for landing on a planet with Earth-like conditions remained unknown. Everything was defying the laws of physics. The robot was projecting scenes of the Resolute being attacked. When the robot removed its hands, the spaceship's energy instantly disappeared. Will couldn't believe that the robot in front of him had attacked them. Terrified, he ran into the forest. The robot, having lost its memory, had forgotten its mission and now only wanted to protect the boy who had saved it. To dispel any doubts, Will gave it commands, which the robot followed perfectly. To test its loyalty, Will told the robot to turn around, even though there was a cliff in front of it. The robot immediately obeyed, gaining Will's complete trust. John found his son and, to protect the robot, kept the attack on the spaceship a secret. They planned to return to the spaceship, unaware that a storm was approaching. As the storm loomed, debris began to fall from the sky. Will picked up a sharp rock and discovered it was an unidentified mineral. Dark clouds gathered, and the robot shielded Will with its tough body from the falling rocks. Despite its efforts, they were forced to find shelter under a large rock. Sharp stones cut John's hand, and they huddled together. At this moment, they heard Penny's voice over the radio. She had come looking for them in a terrain vehicle. They didn't know their exact location, but the robot activated its lighting mode, allowing Penny to find them quickly. They got into the vehicle, but it was overloaded, so the robot had to ride on the back. Meanwhile, Don and Smith also encountered the storm. They took the injured girl to a cave for shelter. Smith told Don to stay with the girl while she went to seek help, leaving Don feeling somewhat moved, though unaware of her deceitful nature. John's family left the forest, planning to return to the spaceship. Don, waiting with binoculars, spotted John's family's vehicle and quickly fired a flare, praying continuously. John also noticed the flare ahead, intending to rescue any survivors but realizing the storm was too close. They found only Smith, who had deceived Don by asking him to retrieve her necklace from a tree while she stole the last flare and left him a fake. Don and the injured girl had to endure the storm in the small cave. John's family returned to the spaceship before the storm hit. It was buried under ice. Lauren calculated that they were 1 billion light years from Earth, meaning even at the fastest speed, it would take 600 years to return. This defied the laws of physics. Why they landed on a habitable planet like Earth remained a mystery. More troubling, the Resolute was severely damaged, potentially stranding them forever. Suddenly, the spaceship shook as the ice above began to crack. They needed to repair the spaceship quickly as fuel levels were dropping. John investigated the fuel tank and found a mysterious black substance moving. The alien robot also detected something unusual in the fuel line. To protect Will, the robot locked him in a room and issued a warning when approached. John, examining the fuel tank, was suddenly pulled down by something. Judy, noticing something wrong, alerted everyone. A creature resembling an eel appeared in the spaceship. Maureen decided to dissect it out of curiosity and discovered blue fluid inside that smelled of fuel, explaining the fuel loss. The situation was dire. At the current rate, the creature would deplete the fuel in 15 minutes. With 2 fuel tanks, the main tank was infested, and the reserve tank was low. To prevent the creatures from entering the reserve, they had to manually shut off the equipment. John went to close the fuel tank, but was attacked by one of the creatures. He carried it on his shoulder while shutting off the tank. The family returned to the control room to prepare to start the spaceship. The spaceship failed to start, and ice chunks were falling onto it. Time was running out, but Judy had an idea. She realized the spaceship couldn't start because a large number of fuel-sucking creatures were clogging the air intake, preventing combustion. They had to jettison the main fuel tank and use the remaining fuel in the pipes to escape. Once the fuel was released, they managed to start the spaceship. In a critical moment, they flew away from the glacier just as the fuel ran out, landing safely. The scene before them was stunning, and they received a signal from survivors. At the same time, the Resolute sent good news. The family found new hope, but Smith was deeply disappointed. The fake doctor, fearing punishment for her numerous mistakes, began plotting. A spaceship was blocked by a rock. Will tried to move it with his small body, but the rock miraculously moved. It was the robot helping him. John was struggling to set up a post, and Will asked the robot for help, showing it needed only to press the iron stake lightly into the ground. John nodded in approval. On this planet, a beetle-like insect appeared. Hiroki and his granddaughter Aiko, also survivors, emerged. John found them via radio, and Hiroki was overjoyed. Don showed up with a chicken, asking Judy to treat an injured girl. John learned there were many survivors stranded on this unnamed planet, all hindered by the fuel-sucking creatures. They found wreckage from the Resolute and searched for usable supplies. Judy discovered that the Resolute was damaged by an alien robot attack. Will was drawing something on the ground, and the robot drew a figure 8. When asked, the robot warned of danger. Will didn't realize this drawing indicated the robot's home planet. Judy returned to find out Will knew about the robot's attack on the Resolute. Angry, she told everyone. Will explained that the robot had changed, but Judy didn't believe him. To protect the robot, Will planned to take it elsewhere. Smith, learning of this, stole Will's gun. When Judy found out about Will's plan, she and Penny chased after him to help hide the robot. They reached an open field and witnessed a magical sight. Flowers bloomed at every sound. Judy clapped, followed by Will and the robot. Suddenly, a large beast appeared, and they ran to a cliff. Unsure of what to do, a large tree fell, pushed by the robot. They crossed the tree, but the robot's head turned red as the beast approached. Threatened by the robot's ferocity, the beast fled. The robot celebrated with raised arms, mimicking Will, earning Judy's admiration. They continued through the forest to a giant waterfall, seeking a hiding place for the robot. John and his group, following signals, found the wreckage of the Resolute, noting signs of attack. Unfortunately, they found no usable items. In the forest, Will and his sisters discovered a group of survivors. To keep the robot hidden, they observed from a distance and found a cave to hide it in. At night, they stayed in the cave for safety. The robot seemed to sense something. In the dark forest, Smith appeared, having followed them. John's group, facing low solar power, had to stay overnight. As purple lights appeared in the sky, they were stunned. Mysterious creatures filled the air, but the beauty was fleeting. Will knew he had to say goodbye to the robot the next day. The robot looked at the handprint Will had left on the wall, seemingly understanding its significance. It dipped its hand in the red mud on the ground and pressed its own hand onto the wall. Judy was stunned by this scene. At dawn, the robot picked up a stone and handed it to Will. Unbeknownst to him, this stone held a special energy. To keep their outing a secret, they had to return to the spaceship. Will bid the robot a final farewell. The robot tried to follow Will, but he stopped it. Alone in the cave, the robot felt dejected. Just as Will and his siblings left, Smith appeared. In the dark forest, Smith curiously approached a creature, touching it, only to have a terrifying creature appear immediately after. Due to significant damage to the Resolute, making communication impossible, the survivors built a beacon tower to signal the Resolute. Maureen noticed an anomaly in the planet's sunlight and wanted to investigate. When John asked about it, Maureen explained that the planet's climate was changing, with the sunrise times accelerating. She was eager to find out why. Smith encountered Engineer Dawn, putting on her usual act. She lied about why she had taken the flare gun, claiming she was scared and had mistakenly taken it. She feigned remorse, which swayed Dawn. She even mentioned her necklace as a good luck charm for him, leaving Dawn speechless and suspicious of her intentions. Maureen climbed a mountain to make a hot air balloon. As she finished preparations, a strong wind blew the balloon away, catching its tether on Maureen's leg and dragging her towards a cliff. She managed to free herself just in time. Regaining her composure, she launched the makeshift balloon and began her ascent. Meanwhile, everyone else worked together to finish the beacon tower, but the light attracted many bugs. Smith secretly tampered with the data in a dangerous area to sabotage their plan. As Maureen reached tens of thousands of feet in altitude, she adjusted the balloon's direction using pressure changes, activated radiation shielding, and scanned the area, discovering a grave danger. On the ground, everyone faced an attack from a mini Godzilla-like creature, attracted by the light and the bugs. Everyone fled in panic, and the beacon tower collapsed. The creature targeted Penny, who hid in a tent. Terrified, she covered her mouth to stay silent. Suddenly, a loud sound from a radio outside startled her, but John arrived just in time to rescue her. Though the creature gave chase, John tried to scare it off with a knife, but it lunged at him. At that moment, the robot appeared, stunning everyone. Overpowered, the creature called for reinforcements and attacked the robot, which didn't retaliate, following Will's command not to harm anyone. The creatures tore the robot apart, but then Will ordered it to revert to its combat form. Instantly, the robot transformed and defeated the creatures. It almost attacked humans, but Will intervened, calming it. Everyone watched in fear as Smith smiled triumphantly. Through her scans, Maureen discovered the planet was experiencing rapid climate change, with sunlight duration increasing drastically. She found a black hole behind the sun, causing the planet's orbit to shift towards the sun, which would eventually incinerate all life. Maureen estimated they had only a few months, or even weeks, left, posing a dire threat to everyone. Meanwhile, the alien robot's presence caused fear among the survivors. They decided to keep this information secret, but Penny overheard. The spaceship's crew debated what to do with the robot, with some seeing it as a threat and others as a savior. Angela, who had lost someone to the robot, couldn't understand why they didn't just destroy it. The representative decided to deal with the robot according to human laws, but John disagreed, arguing the robot was just fulfilling its programming and wasn't inherently dangerous. Given the current threats, a strong robot could provide a sense of security, leading them to keep it. Smith, seeing Angela upset, manipulated her by pretending to be a psychologist, offering help. Angela declined, but was advised to take a walk. During her stroll, Angela stumbled upon a symbol, followed it, and found a hidden bag. Inside the bag, Angela found a gun that Smith had stolen and hidden. Anger consumed her as she grabbed the gun and went to confront John. He tried to calm her down, but Angela had lost all reason and pointed the gun at the robot, whose head turned red. Will, hearing the gunshot from outside, rushed in. When the robot is threatened, it reverts to its original form. John tried to stop it, but was thrown aside until it saw Will. Then it stopped. Seeing John injured, Will felt deeply guilty. The robot seemed to understand it had done something wrong. Will took it to the top of the mountain, hugged it, and said goodbye, ordering it to jump off the cliff. The robot looked at the cliff below, hesitated, but ultimately obeyed Will's command and jumped. 2 all-terrain vehicles appeared, searching for fuel for the spaceship. Don led them to his crashed ship, which had fallen in a desert area with no water, thus no fuel-eating creatures. Don struck a deal with Victor, asking for money, which Victor agreed to. They quickly reached the crashed Jupiter ship, but couldn't find the spaceship. It had fallen into a chasm. Victor canceled the deal with Don, and they prepared to leave. Don stepped on something and unearthed the Jupiter ship. The others rushed to help. The ship started shaking violently as they found an entrance with shovels. The reserve fuel was intact, so they began extracting it. Don worried that draining the fuel might destabilize the ship and make it fall into the chasm. They secured the ship with 2 vehicles to keep it balanced. Don went into the ship and found Dr. Smith's room. As he was about to enter, the ship started sliding, and the vehicle struggled to hold it. Don pushed open the door and found photos without Dr. Smith. The ship was about to fall. They had to cut the cables, but Judy hesitated. The ship continued to slide. Don knew the vehicles couldn't hold it anymore and voluntarily cut the cables. The ship lost balance and fell. Judy couldn't believe what had just happened. As everyone mourned Don, a hand appeared from the ground. Somehow, Don had survived. and they quickly returned. Penny noticed the waterfall had disappeared and warned VJ, Victor's son, that the planet was doomed. John was driving to find supplies when an earthquake struck, forcing them to speed up. They tumbled down a slope as nitrogen gas erupted from the ground. John managed to control the vehicle to avoid flipping over, and they escaped unharmed. When John tried to restart the vehicle, it was stuck. Outside, they smelled a strong odor and realized they were trapped in a tar pit. Meanwhile, the fuel transporters discovered the return path was collapsing, leaving no other route but to cross the nitrogen-spewing surface. They observed the nitrogen emission pattern, which cycled every 3 minutes and 27 seconds, forcing them to run through as quickly as possible. They got into position and waited for the nitrogen to stop. As they sped across, one vehicle malfunctioned with stuck brakes due to a loose wire. Judy noticed and alerted the others. Evan climbed out to reconnect the wire at the back of the vehicle, but nearly fell due to the shaking. Once he regained his balance, he reconnected the wire. Time was running out as nitrogen hit the fuel vehicle, causing it to tip over onto Evan. They had to move the tank. Judy performed emergency first aid on Evan. At that moment, Victor noticed the fuel leaking from the tank. If they moved the tank, more fuel would spill. Victor suggested stopping and calling for another vehicle, but Judy disagreed, leading to a heated debate over sacrificing one life to save many. Evan was near death, forcing them to make a choice. Judy called Don for help moving the tank. Don hesitated. Victor told Don he wouldn't get paid if he moved the tank, but Don chose to move it anyway. As the tank was moved, fuel poured out, but Evan's life was temporarily saved. They hurried back, but Evan died from his injuries. John was stuck, using a rope to hook onto a tree. The vehicle began to sink into the tar pit. They closed the doors as the vehicle submerged. John found a spacesuit inside and had Maureen wear it to escape, but she refused, knowing opening the door would let in the tar. John told her, "Live for the youth." They said their final goodbyes. John was about to open the door when Maureen stopped him, coming up with a better idea. They covered the door with a plastic bag and released nitrogen gas into the car. Once the nitrogen filled the car, they opened the door and climbed out safely. Victor returned with a small amount of fuel and learned from his son that the planet was doomed. Upon hearing this, Victor decided to use the remaining fuel to launch the spaceship. John discovered their plan. Maureen warned that the fuel wouldn't be enough to escape the atmosphere and that they would fall back, but Victor ignored them. To stop them, John jumped into the spaceship before the door closed and managed to shut down the launch process. They informed everyone about the planet's imminent destruction. The black hole's appearance was pulling the planet's orbit closer to the sun. In a few weeks, the planet would be scorched, leaving no life behind. Maureen came up with a plan. Since they had limited fuel, they needed to lighten the spaceship by discarding unnecessary items. This meant returning to the most basic space exploration methods, keeping only the spaceship's control system. 2 people would fly into space to find the Resolute, while the others provided support. Smith found the broken robot and tried to reassemble and restart it, but failed. She remembered a strange frequency from Will's video, which seemed to weakly activate the robot. When Judy returned, she told Maureen about Smith impersonating a doctor. Maureen confronted Smith, tricked her into the storeroom, and locked her inside. Despite Smith's objections and claims that she had sabotaged the spaceship's engine, Maureen saw through her lies. They decided to have John and Don pilot the spaceship to find the Resolute. Will, having recently lost the robot, was deeply worried about his father's safety. They conducted a simulation training, and the 2 men passed the test with flying colors. As night fell, they donned protective suits and boarded the spaceship. Maureen joined them at the command center. Once everything was ready, the spaceship launched into the sky. Everyone watched as it ascended. But without an artificial gravity system, the increasing speed caused John and Don to lose consciousness. Maureen managed to wake them up after a short while. To conserve energy, they decided not to vent the exhaust during re-entry, so they had to open the vent manually. Following the plan, they quickly exited the atmosphere, but encountered glowing clouds that shook the spaceship violently. Before the launch, Smith had met with Will, claiming she knew how to fix the robot so it could pilot the spaceship instead of John. Will released her, and she knocked out Maureen in the control room, causing the spaceship to explode in midair. John was one of the pilots. Will, in a fit of anger, smashed objects around him and accidentally broke a rock given to him by the robot. He picked it up and smelled something foul. Under expert analysis, it turned out to be a solid fuel type, essentially fossilized dung. Judy was disgusted, but this meant they had a chance to escape. For their fuel-starved spaceship, this was incredibly valuable. as their Jupiter ship could convert waste into energy. This discovery could solve their fuel shortage problem. They found that the dung came from the top predator species on the planet. They ventured into a cave and discovered a vast amount of biofuel, enough for all their spaceships to leave. As they were about to collect the fuel, Victor stepped on something. They looked up and discovered living creatures above them. The group went outside to discuss and decided to quietly transport the biofuel out. They split up and began working, making sure to stay as quiet as possible. Suddenly, Will's radio crackled to life, and he quickly turned it off in fear. He realized his father was still alive, but unfortunately, this noise had woken the creatures above. They charged at the humans, who fled in terror. Near the crashed alien ship, Smith had taken Maureen hostage, demanding she reveal how to awaken the robot. Maureen didn't know how. Smith reassembled the disjointed robot, hoping to become its master and gain its protection. But she failed. Inside the alien spaceship, they discovered an electrodynamic drive, similar to the one on the Resolute, indicating that human space travel technology was stolen from the aliens. The aliens were attacking to reclaim what was theirs. Meanwhile, Judy was searching for Maureen. Using the rover's locator, she found them emerging from the spaceship. Smith confessed her numerous past crimes, fearing human justice upon returning to the Resolute. Desperate for the robot's protection, she accidentally activated the spaceship's energy by kicking the robot's arm against it. Smith noticed the anomaly and investigated with a knife. The robot began to react, repairing its damaged parts. Just then, Judy appeared and knocked Smith out with an electric shock. She freed Maureen, and they drove away in the rover, only to be stopped by the robot. Smith approached, and the robot warned her off. In space, John and Don were trapped in a drifting spaceship with limited oxygen. They sent a distress signal using their radio. Those stranded on the unnamed planet had found fuel and were preparing to leave. A strange audio signal was received by their radio. Will used Moss's code to inform them he had found fuel, rekindling their hope. A rover returned with Judy and Maureen safe, but with Smith and the robot. Will was ecstatic, but then realized Smith had become the robot's new master. Another signal came through, indicating Don had used oxidizer in the pipes to create heat for Jupiter to locate them. As the spaceships left for the Resolute, Will tried to rekindle the robot's memory by showing it a baseball they used to play with. The robot showed no recognition, leaving Will saddened. Volcanic eruptions began on the planet, forcing a quick departure. Once they reached a certain altitude, Smith removed her helmet, but it didn't float, revealing the spaceship had gravity. They discovered an alien electrodynamic drive under the rover, causing this anomaly. On the Resolute, Victor sent out a signal to the other Jupiter ships, which had safely returned, except for Jupiter 2. Maureen's family received a signal from the Resolute, but with a black hole nearby, the Resolute couldn't stay long. John and Don, still adrift, used the oxidizer to create a heat signature for Jupiter 2 to find them. Maureen activated the thermal radar despite Smith's objections due to low fuel. Smith, relying on the robot's protection, wanted to abandon the rescue mission, but Maureen piloted the spaceship down. The robot took Smith to safety, locking her in a secure compartment. Maureen ignored Smith's demands to be freed, focusing on rescuing John and Don. Don successfully burned the oxidizer, and they were located. As fuel was running low, they used a harpoon gun to pull them into the spaceship's orbit. Smith found a way to escape the locked compartment, but Maureen successfully used the harpoon gun to pull John and Don back before they could reach Don. Smith angrily ordered the robot to find them, and they hid in the tail section of the ship. Maureen told the kids to get into the vehicle, but Will stayed outside just as the robot appeared. Will tried to awaken the robot. As it was about to attack Will, a device on the spaceship knocked the robot away. Fortunately, Maureen arrived just in time. The robot got up, ready to attack again, but was hit once more. They quickly donned protective suits and secured themselves on the spaceship. The robot stood up again, and Maureen opened the hatch. The strong suction prevented the robot from advancing, but it still posed a threat. At that moment, a crate flew and hit the robot, pushing it out, allowing them to escape the danger. Meanwhile, John and Don noticed the harpoon gun being pulled back. A shadow loomed over them as they looked up. The tail of the spaceship opened, revealing an alien ship. They were stunned as the robot returned with an alien creature. The alien revived the robot's memory, turning its head red. It pointed towards the rover. Maureen intervened but was knocked aside, her mask cracking as she lost consciousness. The alien attacked the rover, causing the alien engine to fall, and Will's suit began leaking oxygen. The alien, having obtained the engine, aimed to attack Will, but the robot recognized him and protected him, knocking the engine aside. The robot repaired Will's suit, and they reunited. The alien attacked the robot, which then embraced its opponent and launched into space. The rover's windshield cracked, and with the hydraulic system damaged, Will decided to manually close the tail section. He climbed outside and used all his strength to shut the tail before re-entering the spaceship another way. He tried to climb, but, injured, lost his grip and drifted into space. John appeared and grabbed him, pulling him back to the ship with the harpoon gun shot by Smith, who also helped rescue Don. The family returned to the spaceship, but their fuel was nearly depleted, leaving them adrift in space. However, hope emerged as the Resolute came to their aid. Just then, the alien robot's strange signal reached them, spreading the alien engine's influence across the ship, causing it to lose control and veer off course. A bright light appeared as the alien engine activated, propelling the ship towards a colorful cloud and disappearing into space, leaving the Resolute crew bewildered. Ahead of the Jupiter ship appeared two unidentified planets, resembling the robot's drawings. They had been taken to an unknown star system by the alien creature. Running out of fuel, they landed in a sea. The place had glowing creatures and a methane-laden atmosphere, with occasional lightning strikes on the water. To survive, they planted corn to address food shortages. They used special devices for energy during the day and guarded against changing weather. After 7 months, a storm disrupted their peace. One night, John noticed the protective plastic over the cornfield was torn, letting in methane. He hurried to fix it without protective gear, causing him to collapse from the gas. Fortunately, Don found and rescued him in time, but their corn was severely damaged, leaving them without food. To escape, they planned together and built a seaworthy vessel to reach the stormy waters for energy collection. John, a former Navy officer, took on the role of captain, despite looming dangers and an approaching storm that they were unaware of. Smith, confined to a room, noticed something unusual. The spaceship shook violently as they hit a reef and got stuck. To make matters worse, a storm was approaching. Will noticed something underwater and thought it was the robot, but upon closer inspection, he realized it was just plankton. John decided to use the small amount of remaining energy to start the spaceship for 2 seconds. This idea gave Maureen an inspiration. They opened the ship's wings, freeing it from the reef. Just then, the storm hit, and they were faced with numerous large rocks ahead. Everyone retracted the sails, but Will was knocked overboard by the mast. Thankfully, John managed to catch him in time. The oxygen in John's suit started leaking, and he inhaled a large amount of methane, making it impossible for him to steer the ship. Maureen thought of Smith, who was locked in a room. When she got out, the Rocky Mountain was right in front of them. Smith unfurled the sails to speed up and navigate through the gap between the mountains. Will drove to one end to shift the spaceship's center of gravity. With everyone's cooperation, the spaceship managed to pass through the rocks at the steepest angle. They created another miracle. The next day, they encountered a swift current. They didn't realize a waterfall was ahead. John tried to steer the ship back, but it was too late. Stepping outside, they were all stunned to see a metallic structure below, seemingly connected to the lightning. To restart the ship, they made a kite to fly into the lightning storm. When lightning struck, they would immediately start the ship. Don, dealing with plankton below, was attacked and felt severe pain in his legs, which began to go numb. Both Don and Penny fell into the water. Hearing Penny's cries, Maureen rushed down. At that moment, the kite slipped. John tried to grab it but missed, quickly throwing the kite's rope over the mast. Maureen pulled Don up, but Penny was swept away by the current. Maureen jumped in to save her, and both fell over the waterfall. Fortunately, they landed safely, finding themselves standing on a metal structure, marveling at the sight. Strange writings adorned the structure. John dropped the kite line to pull them up, unaware of a loose screw. As they were about to grab the line, it fell, and the mast toppled towards Maureen. They narrowly escaped, but the kite blew away. They needed another plan as lightning was imminent. Will remembered the robot but realized it wasn't there. He then thought of creating a Faraday cage to protect Maureen and Don from lightning strikes. They used a rover as the cage, lowering it with ropes. However, the ropes were too short to reach Maureen. Lightning began to strike in the distance, forcing them to find another way up. Maureen then thought of the fallen mast. They hooked the rope onto the rover and climbed inside, using it as a conductor to transfer electricity to the spaceship. When lightning struck, the ship started, and both the ship and the rover lifted off. The rover was struck by lightning, burning it, but John managed to open the hatch, and they were safe. Will heard a noise from the alien engine, and as he investigated, a broken robot arm appeared. For safety, they put it in a container. Returning to their original orbit, they marveled at the planet's wonders. The spaceship detected something unusual. The Resolute had appeared out of nowhere. After drifting in space for half a year, the Jupiter finally reconnected with the Resolute. The children happily ran around, heading to the cafeteria for food, only to find it eerily deserted and in ruins. Sensing something was wrong, John told them to return to the Jupiter immediately. They wanted to investigate the black box for clues. Inside, they heard chaotic sounds before the signal was cut off, indicating that the Resolute had been attacked. Everyone decided to return to the Jupiter. At this moment, the red lights in the hallway suddenly lit up. Then, partitions dropped down, sealing everything off and separating the family. They had no choice but to find another way to the dining hall for their meeting. This entire situation was orchestrated by Dr. Smith on the Jupiter spaceship. She had freed herself from her handcuffs, triggered the spaceship's fire alarm system, sneaked into the records room to erase all evidence of her crimes, and changed her identity to escape punishment from human civilization. Meanwhile, Judy accidentally encountered a little girl named Sam. Sam explained that the Resolute had been attacked by aliens and that she got separated from her family and ended up there. Judy intended to take Sam to the dining hall, but she discovered aliens below them. Will and Penny were already in the dining hall and sensed something strange approaching. They quickly hid behind a table, holding their breath. Curious, they peeked out and saw a horse unexpectedly appear. As they stood there in confusion, an alien robot entered the dining hall. Realizing the danger, Judy warned the family. Maureen, heading to the dining hall, discovered evidence of a large battle and saw that the Resolute's engine had been taken by the aliens, leaving the ship as an empty shell. Don, observing from the Jupiter spaceship, noticed a red light moving toward the dining hall. The horse, sensing imminent danger, became frantic, and Penny struggled to calm it down. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed as a food tray fell from the table, alerting the alien robot, which quickly approached. Will and Penny hid behind the food storage unit, terrified to breathe as they watched the injured alien robot crawl on the floor. To divert its attention, John sang his favorite song loudly, drawing the robot towards the sound, where it found only a radio transmitter. The family managed to trap the robot in a room, finally reuniting. At that moment, the spaceship Pharaohs arrived, and a group of armed people approached them. It turned out that Ben, the deputy commander, had received a signal and came to rescue them. John informed Ben about the captured alien robot, to which Ben responded, "We have already contacted the aliens. This robot is a decoy, always present on the Resolute, and all the secrets are hidden behind that iron door." They learned that the advanced space travel technology came from an alien ship that crashed on Earth. Humans had taken the alien engine and captured the alien pilot, discovering that the alien robot could be controlled with a specific radio wave. The only way to activate the alien engine was with the alien robot. The Resolute's long-term space travel capability was due to alien intelligence, but the aliens had reclaimed their engine, leaving the Resolute powerless. Maureen informed Ben that their spaceship had another alien engine, and they planned to repair the Resolute. Will, seeing the captured robot, felt its longing for freedom and tried to communicate with it. Ben remarked that it was just a puppet for human use, but Will disagreed, believing that robots could form bonds and that understanding their needs was crucial to becoming friends. The robot slowly emerged from its cage, and Will handed it a robot arm, which it quickly reattached. The robot noticed Will's injury and was given a toy by Will. Seemingly angered by the toy, the robot smashed it and attacked Will, but Ben activated the radio waves, freezing it in place and forcing it back into the cage. Maureen saw Will's fear and wanted to reassure him. To address his concerns, she took him to the cockpit, where they found the captured alien robot. The robot extended its sharp claws and pointed towards the control room. Will noticed a handprint left by their old robot. When he touched it, a vision of another planet appeared in his mind. This helped him realize where his robot friend was. The three of them took the Jupiter ship to this new planet to find the alien robot that could fix the Resolute. They traveled beyond the planet's safe zone, choosing to traverse the 100-kilometer desert on foot since their rover couldn't reach that far. As night fell, they decided to set up a protective perimeter to ensure safety. They sat around a fire, but danger was approaching. Their horses sensed it first, their eyes glowing in the dark. The protective device malfunctioned and turned off. Maureen quickly reactivated it, but it kept shutting down. Predatory creatures appeared, attacking furiously. Fortunately, the device reactivated just in time to keep them at bay. The creatures circled them, waiting for the protective field to fail again. Suddenly, a bright red light flashed, repelling the predators. The robot appeared before them, and Will hugged it tightly. The robot led Will to a cave filled with strange drawings, seemingly trying to communicate something. Will realized the drawings depicted their past experiences, showing a psychic connection between them. He noticed the robot's hand was injured and understood that the robot in front of him was the alien robot that had previously attacked them, not his friend. Will signaled his mother not to let the robot on the ship. Maureen didn't understand why. The robot caught on and revealed its true form. Will tried to escape but was captured by the alien robot. Ben managed to slip out and later returned with a radio wave device to subdue the robot. Will ventured out to find his robot friend, eventually falling into a cave and crying for help. A familiar figure appeared and embraced him. When they returned to the Jupiter, they encountered 3 predatory creatures chasing a herd of alien cattle. The herd stampeded, scaring the horses and causing Will to fall. A rock trapped the horse's reins. Will shouted for the robot to leave, but it stayed to help the horse. The herd charged, and the robot's face turned red. Despite the chaos, they were safe. The robot had protected the horse because Will had told it that the horse was their friend. The Jupiter ship arrived, but the horse, injured, soon succumbed to infection. The robot and Will comforted the horse, and then built a grave for it together, surprising Ben, who had never seen such behavior from a robot. Back on the Jupiter, they planned to transport the robot to the Resolute in a specialized container. Unbeknownst to Will, Ben had received orders from his superior, Hastings, to capture the robot and turn it into a tool for controlling the spaceship. After all these events, Ben's perspective changed. He decided to bring the robot with them on the ship back to the Resolute. Everyone on board looked at the robot with fear. They reached the place where the alien engine was stored. Will commanded the robot, which hesitated at first. After Will pleaded, it began to activate the alien engine. With the robot's help, they quickly finished the repairs. They planned to move it to the Resolute to restart the ship. John realized that after the Resolute received a strange sound, the people stranded on nearby planets stopped receiving supplies. These people were still there, without any response. John and Dr. Smith sneaked into the data storage room to find clues. They heard a sound sent by the aliens and discovered that Hastings was plotting something. Due to the lack of oxygen on the Resolute and a large amount of contaminated water, Hastings planned to abandon the people on the surrounding planets. The Robinson family discovered this and began planning to thwart Hastings' scheme. As the spaceship's alien engine was being assembled and about to be restarted, Hastings was standing behind. As soon as the ship started, he intended to immediately return to Alpha, abandoning the people and other crew members. Because of his achievements, he didn't want the Resolute to risk searching for water and air. The Robinson family, aware of this, took action and rallied those on the ship with relatives about to be abandoned. They took control of the cockpit and the engine, interrupting the startup process. Upon learning that Will had led the aliens away, Maureen discovered a nearby gas giant. Its primary components were hydrogen, helium, and ammonia, with massive storms. Electrolyzed ammonia could solve the resource contamination issue on the ship. Since it would take too long for a small Jupiter ship to reach there, they decided to pilot the Resolute to that planet. This meant they would face dangerous storms on the gas giant. Additionally, the support beams along the pressurized hull of the Resolute had been damaged, making this journey even more challenging. If the beams broke, the ship would be torn apart by the storm. Maureen seemed to have devised a perfect plan to address this, and after everything was prepared, a dangerous journey began. The pressurized hull, under immense stress, started showing structural changes. The robot, acting as a master welder, repaired the cracks, leaving everyone amazed. The ship successfully reached a safe area of the gas giant, and they started the engine at the ship's rear to collect gas. Hastings, realizing his plan had failed, played his last card. The ship's safety system was designed by Maureen, who had made a deal with a mysterious person to get her son Will on board, not knowing it was Hastings. Hastings exploited a programming loophole to disable the safety system and open the final compartment, depriving those inside of air and preventing ammonia collection. As the last compartment opened, John hurriedly got everyone out. The door on the other side of the compartment was also closing. Once the door was shut, John and another person were trapped inside. Without control, those outside couldn't open the door. The control room also experienced anomalies. Maureen, realizing her information leak caused this, piloted a repair ship outside to close the final compartment door. After a struggle, she finally closed the door, saving John and his teammate. Meanwhile, Hastings regained control of the ship due to the system changes. He ordered the captain to start the engine and head to Alpha. The captain refused his command. She restarted the gas collection system to prepare for water purification. Meanwhile, the robot on the ship seemed to have discovered something and sounded an alarm. It found the Scarecrow trapped in a cage, and the guards continued to electrocute it unknowingly. The Scarecrow in the cage turned out to be its friend. At this point, the robot switched to combat mode, taking down the two guards and tearing open the cage to free its friend. The Scarecrow was freed, but the light on its face had dimmed significantly, indicating it was near death. The robot, deeply saddened, decided to take its friend and leave. Wanting to save the Scarecrow from the brink of death, the robot sought Will's help. Will agreed to assist. However, Hastings discovered that the Scarecrow had been freed and ordered a search to capture it. At the same time, Maureen was outside the Resolute on a repair ship, which was running low on fuel. John decided to take another repair ship to rescue her, unaware that Hastings was executing a plan to cover up the truth. When John, with Maureen's repair ship, prepared to return to the Resolute, he found the compartment locked by Hastings. Hastings ordered the ship to accelerate, causing both of them to be thrown out. Separated from the Resolute, Maureen tried to contact Judy, but the signal was weak due to the distance, making communication difficult. They could only chase after the Resolute. Will, hiding in the ship's junkyard to avoid Hastings, needed to know where to take the Scarecrow for help. The robot pointed to a drawing on its friend's hand, but Will didn't understand it. The robot then drew a horse on the wall, and Will realized it was the planet Amber where they had first found the robot. However, avoiding surveillance cameras and returning to the Jupiter to reach Amber was a daunting task. They sought out Judy and a girl named Sam, devising a plan to distract the guards. Sam intentionally appeared in a camera-monitored area to draw attention while the others went to the garage. Judy and Penny drove an all-terrain vehicle boldly into the hallway, diverting the guards. Suddenly, the compartment door closed, and the vehicle crashed into it and stopped. Hastings and the guards quickly arrived, thinking they had caught the Scarecrow, but it was only a robot arm. By then, Will had taken the robot to the Jupiter. Ben confronted Will, revealing the kid's plan and demanding Will hand over the Scarecrow using a signal device. Will tried to explain everything to Ben, asserting that the robot deserved everyone's trust. Initially skeptical, Ben was soon convinced when the robot called his name. This changed Ben's mind, and they decided to save the dying Scarecrow. The robot, not wanting to harm humans, was restrained by the guards. Will and Ben then set off for Amber. Ben piloted the ship away, with the robot now imprisoned by Hastings. As John and his wife were chasing the Resolute outside, something extraordinary happened. In the thick fog, a giant eye appeared, belonging to a creature resembling a huge fish swimming past them. While they were still in shock, its tail knocked them away. They quickly flew towards a gas planet. Fortunately, after some expert maneuvering of the spacecraft, John managed to catch Maureen, saving them both from danger, while the Resolute completed its ammonia collection and prepared to return. With fuel running low on the repair ship, they had to take a risk to return to the Resolute. A storm was approaching ahead. Meanwhile, Ben was taking the Scarecrow to Amber to treat it. He said his farewells to it. Just then, a lightning storm struck, and Will was thrown off the deck and knocked unconscious. When he woke up, he saw red glowing spots outside, sensing imminent danger. A group of alien creatures was charging towards him. He quickly sent a distress signal via his radio. The human ships were returning to the Resolute when they noticed two ships approaching from different sectors. The leading ship was the Jupiter, followed by an alien spacecraft, with the humans being pursued. In the critical situation, Hastings rushed to the cockpit, intending to start the Resolute and return to Alpha, leaving Will behind. He used a radio device to control the robot. Since Will hadn't returned yet, the robot refused to obey. Hastings increased the intensity. John, returning to the Resolute, heard the engine starting and rushed to the control room, taking down the guards outside. Once inside, he was again stopped by guards. Hastings, losing patience, turned the device to maximum power, causing the robot to start losing consciousness. John, with Don's help, defeated the guards. Maureen grabbed a stun baton and incapacitated Hastings, thwarting his plan. They rescued the robot, who was thankfully unharmed. After the Jupiter returned, Will reunited with his family, but Ben had been struck by lightning. They decided to activate the alien engine to leave. Suddenly, the robot warned them of danger. John analyzed that if they returned to Alpha, the alien ship would follow, posing a deadly threat to those on the planet. They had to stay to stop the aliens. Maureen devised a plan to lure the aliens into a trap using the alien engine and a strong electromagnetic field. The alien ship was approaching, and John and Judy carried the alien engine to lure them. As the alien ship's door opened, a blinding light damaged the ship. Silver aliens began entering the ship. Surveillance cameras were jammed, and John and Judy used the engine to draw the aliens' attention. Maureen, holding the remote control, waited for the aliens to enter. As they swarmed in, they quickly hid, waiting for the aliens to fully enter the room. At the last moment, Maureen activated the trap, but due to insufficient electricity, they couldn't eliminate the aliens, only temporarily immobilizing them. Worse yet, hundreds of alien ships were approaching, vying for the engine capable of opening space fissures. They couldn't hold them back. Everyone decided to move the alien engine to the Jupiter. Since the Jupiter had limited air supply, they could only send all the children on the Jupiter to leave this place. The others had to use the ship to move supplies away from the space station. At this moment, the robot discovered danger. The restrained alien creatures were gradually moving closer to cut the cables. Maureen carefully moved the cables elsewhere. Worse still, another sharp claw was approaching the cables, ready to cut them. They didn't know that the alien creatures were trying to open the outer hatch of the ship, causing everyone to panic. While Maureen was troubled, Smith, in an astronaut suit, entered to protect the cables. She went into the compartment, and numerous alien creatures appeared before her. She cautiously moved forward and managed to move the cables to a safer location. But the situation hadn't improved. On another side, a sharp alien claw was about to cut the cables. It was clearly too late. Smith could only close her eyes and pray. Maureen saw the astronaut suit fly out, and in the end, Smith had done something commendable. The aliens are coming. Everyone must leave immediately. The aliens began to awaken, rushing towards the Jupiter. The robot, preparing to start the alien engine, suddenly detected impending danger. It intended to go out and stop the other aliens. Will stopped it, telling it to continue starting the engine and open the space fissure. At this point, the aliens had arrived, and Will tried to talk to them. The robot called his name. Will tried to persuade the aliens to live peacefully with humans, but they were about to attack. At this moment, another alien robot, Scarecrow, subdued them. Will recognized it too. Penny pulled Will away as Scarecrow prevented other aliens from approaching the ship. A battle between the aliens broke out. Outnumbered, all the ships quickly left, and the aliens rushed back to their own ships. John and Maureen stayed behind to buy time for others, planning to crash the Resolute into nearby spaceship debris. The robot was starting the alien engine to open the space fissure. John and Maureen couldn't reach the lifeboat in time, so they had to stay. Just as they were in despair, Don piloted a lifeboat back to rescue them. A blinding light appeared, the space fissure opened, and the alien ship followed closely behind. The spaceship was about to crash into an obstacle. The alien ship crashed into the debris and was destroyed, while the lifeboat escaped. The space fissure closed, and Will's group successfully arrived at a new planet. They discovered something unusual. The planet was an alpha. They had followed a different signal. Amidst dense asteroids, the ship Fortuna appeared, commanded by Judy's father. Judy decided to explore the ship, finding it intact and operational, wondering what had happened. She planned to check the flight logs to understand what had occurred. As she did, something approached her. It was a deceased astronaut. Meanwhile, the Jupiter's engine malfunctioned, 2 small asteroids collided, and debris shot towards the ship. The ship switched to safe mode and prepared to land. With the ropes broken, Judy had to return. They found themselves in a small valley with an Earth-like environment. There were familiar items like corn and farming tools. They had been stranded for 349 days, still hoping to return to Alpha. They found pure titanium on this planet, and the children started forging it to repair the damaged engines. But the materials were still insufficient. The ship signaled a meteor warning. The children, frightened, rushed into a cave for shelter. Luckily, the meteor burned up after passing through the atmosphere. Worse still, in a few days, an asteroid will hit this place. They must quickly repair the spaceship and leave. Not long ago, during a computer check, they discovered a large amount of titanium in the valley ahead, at an altitude of 3 kilometers above sea level. Since the robot failed to reach it last time, they decided to go there themselves this time. The group headed to a steep cliff, where Will noticed a bug emerging from a hole. The robot, watching from below, felt uneasy seeing the children in danger. Smith sensed the robot was hiding something. As night fell, they set up camp on the cliffside like bats, showing remarkable courage. At dawn, they continued climbing, but VJ lost his grip and fell. Judy rushed to check on him. With his arm injured, VJ had to return with another member. The 3 who remained finally found the titanium and began collecting it. A stone fell and was blown upwards by a strong current, reminding them to stay vigilant. The beautiful sunset captivated everyone. Soon, night fell again, and they prepared to camp. Suddenly, Will heard a noise outside. The cliff began to crumble, and the three were terrified. The bugs from the morning reappeared, eating the rocks. Worse still, they were far from the titanium above. To reach it, Will came up with a bold idea. Due to the strong updrafts, they decided to tear the tent to make a parachute. The three jumped down and were lifted upwards by the wind, successfully reaching the titanium and returning to the ground. Smith, through Will's records, discovered a large amount of missing titanium, realizing it was the robot's doing. It had secretly dumped the titanium into the river, trying to protect Will from further danger. On the ground, everyone began missing their loved ones. The robot, unclear about its mission, seemed confused. At that moment, flaming meteors streaked across the sky, crashing somewhere on the planet. The robot felt a call and went to where the meteors had fallen. Passing through a narrow valley, it found what seemed like its home. A group on another of the robot's planets searched for useful supplies after the Resolute crashed. Facing powerful alien creatures, they had to stay disguised. Any electronic device turned on would attract alien pursuit. They split up to find supplies, taking batteries from flashlights and finding an intact case of food. John noticed danger as an alien creature searched nearby. He quickly instructed everyone to get down. A boy, nervous, accidentally turned on a flashlight, attracting the alien and getting killed. After the Resolute was destroyed, they set up a temporary space station next to a planet. The high temperatures helped avoid alien attacks, but they had to endure extreme heat. They planned a new mission to find lost children. Meanwhile, on another planet, Judy discovered the long-lost Fortuna, missing for 20 years. Inside, she found the system still functional and the astronauts in cryogenic sleep. She discovered her father, Grant, among them. Trying to wake him, she found his pod malfunctioning. She quickly opened it, finding his heart rate dropping. With her medical training, she performed external cardiac massage and improvised a defibrillator. After some shocks, Grant woke up. Judy told him about the future, but didn't reveal she was his daughter. With the cryopods malfunctioning, they decided to leave with an old rover. As they talked happily, a sandstorm hit. The cryopod straps came loose, and Judy rushed to secure them. At that moment, a meteor was hurtling towards them from the sky. In this extremely dangerous situation, Judy managed to secure the cryogenic pod. However, a massive meteor crashed behind them, sending a cloud of dust their way. The two fell into a pit, narrowly escaping disaster, and successfully returned to the valley. Will noticed that the robot had been missing for a few days. The rock in front of them had a mysterious power. Just by touching it, their hair stood on end. They found this very strange. Smith approached them, suggesting that this place might be hiding alien technology. To find the robot, they decided to explore deeper. Strange images and symbols appeared on the cave walls. Smith stayed outside to keep watch. Will accidentally found footprints on the ground that looked just like the robot's. Penny, frightened, suggested they leave. Suddenly, the door closed, and Smith realized there was danger. Inside, Will and Penny frantically searched for a way to open the door, but found nothing. They were trapped. Meanwhile, Maureen piloted the Jupiter 2 into the alien creature's lair. To return to Alpha, they needed either alien technology or the robot. They tried to reassemble the Scarecrow, but found nothing. Will and Penny, trapped in the cave, saw something opening the door. To their surprise, it was Smith rescuing them. Just as they celebrated, the robot appeared before them. It wanted to take them somewhere. They followed it to a place that left them all astonished. It was where the robots were created. The robot led Will to the cockpit of an alien spaceship, revealing a map of the universe. It found a nearby planet and located the Jupiter 2. A red light flashed on the spaceship, and the robot issued a warning. On the Jupiter 2, another alien robot had boarded. Maureen seemed to notice it. John planned to use a radio device to capture the robot. They worked together, with Maureen leading the alien robot inside and trapping it in the doorway. Just as John was about to subdue it, the robot's belly lit up, transmitting Will's voice. Maureen stopped John, realizing the robot meant no harm. They communicated through the second robot, discovering it was there to help. Will updated his parents on the situation, but the signal was soon disrupted. Penny and Smith prepared to return to the valley. Will, curious about what had happened, fired a signal flare. It was clear the alien creatures were no longer there, and the second robot was unaware its creators had died but still followed their original orders. While collecting samples, Will found the remains of an alien creature with long fingers, tall spines, and 4 arms, upon which the alien robots were modeled. Exploring further, Will discovered a deep, bottomless pit. He fired another signal flare, and was shocked to see thousands of alien skeletons below. It was evident they had suffered a catastrophic attack. Will curiously ventured through the crevice and saw a circular switch. He decided to touch it, but nothing happened. Could it be unlocked by fingerprint? He searched for the arm of the alien corpse. This time, he successfully opened it. Upon touching a button, a strange sound played. The loud noise caused the rocks above to start falling. Judy tried to use the radio to contact Will, but all she heard was the strange sound, and she couldn't reach him. Smith decided to take Judy to the cave to find him. Will was still engrossed with the buttons. When he pressed the last one, the cave ceiling began to collapse. He quickly fled the scene. Judy's group arrived just as the door was closing. Smith used a metal rod to keep it open. They all returned to the spaceship, just as a meteor was about to strike. The spaceship switched from safe mode to protection mode and couldn't take off. They had to disable the safe mode for Judy's father to manually pilot the ship. Due to limited air supply on the ship and the addition of Grant, Smith was put into a cryogenic pod. To ensure she would be awakened, she made a pact with Will. The spaceship quickly ascended, navigating through numerous meteors floating in space. With Grant's expert maneuvers, they prepared to pass through the meteor belt. Suddenly, the computer issued a warning. Grant, confident in his skills, ignored it, prompting Judy to intervene. Trusting her mother's safety system, she activated the autopilot. With the computer's help, they safely exited the meteor belt. On another planet, to steal the second alien engine, they launched a new plan with the help of Robot 2. John and Don prepared to distract the alien creatures with the rover. Maureen would wait for the aliens to leave, allowing Robot 2 to infiltrate the spaceship and steal the engine. Everything proceeded smoothly, and Robot 2 successfully defeated the guarding alien and retrieved the engine. Maureen was overjoyed. However, the aliens suddenly stopped pursuing. Just as Maureen was about to signal John's group, the ground split open, revealing a horde of aliens. It was a trap. Robot 2 tried to resist but was overpowered, dropping the engine. A commanding alien approached and issued an order to Robot 2. Refusing to comply, Robot 2 had data forcibly transmitted into its brain. After being taken away, their plan failed. Meanwhile, the aliens tried to control Robot 2. The robot on the Jupiter 2 quickly fell under their influence, opening the star map and seemingly searching for something. The crew on the Jupiter 2 remained unaware of what was happening. The aliens were looking for humans' locations in the robot's memory. Suddenly, the robot issued a warning. This alerted Will that his parents were targeted by the aliens. Robot 2, which had been helping them, was terminated by its comrades, leaving the robot grief-stricken. John realized an alien spaceship was closing in on them, making escape seem impossible. To ensure the safety of the children and the survivors on the planet, they decided to destroy everything related to the children and Alpha Planet. Soon, the alien spaceship arrived, and everyone prepared to sacrifice themselves, waiting in silence for the aliens to come. Just when all seemed lost, they noticed a surge in energy from another area. The Jupiter ship appeared, and the aliens detected it too, diverting their attention to chase Will. John, realizing the children were in danger, ordered the Jupiter 2 to intercept the aliens. Then, Judy's voice came through. They discovered the signal from the children's ship wasn't from the Jupiter. It was the Fortuna, which had vanished 20 years ago, now reappearing. It turned out to be a decoy plan. Everyone had been transferred to the Fortuna, while the Jupiter was set on autopilot. Finally, the family reunited, but there was no time for sentimentality. They had to leave quickly as time was running out. Will had a different plan. He went to Smith's cryopod and told the robot he would stay behind with it to end everything because he was the alien's target. He woke Smith and explained his plan. As the space rift opened, the Jupiter ships headed towards Alpha Planet. The aliens, realizing they had been tricked, chased the ships, only to find out too late. The Maureen family was preparing to leave when they discovered Smith was alive, surprising everyone. Will planned to hide behind Smith to sneak onto the Fortuna. Smith distracted everyone by explaining how she survived, allowing Will to sneak onto the ship. Suddenly, the ship lurched violently as an alien spacecraft appeared overhead. The aliens had called reinforcements to stop them from entering the space rift. Will used his radio to play the sounds he had recorded at the alien base. His efforts caused the aliens to lose focus momentarily. The two ships collided, and Will's plan failed, forcing him to return to the Jupiter. They decided to pilot the ship through the space rift. An alien ship pursued them, so they had to reroute to another destination to prevent alien invasion. The other Jupiter ships successfully passed through the rift back to Alpha Planet. Only then did they realize the Jupiter 2 was missing. Having landed on a different planet, the ship was out of control, plummeting fast. Everyone activated the emergency evacuation systems, preparing to jump from the spaceship. Unfortunately, Maureen and Judy's escape systems malfunctioned, putting them in imminent danger. Their spaceship crash landed on the unfamiliar planet, pursued by aliens. Judy wanted to use the radio to contact others, but Maureen stopped her, fearing the aliens would detect them. While inspecting the ship's damage, Maureen discovered a new threat. They had tried to activate the ejection seats during the crash, but they had failed. They found the ejection mechanism was stuck, meaning Maureen was effectively sitting on a bomb. Any movement could trigger an explosion, so they had to find another solution. Suddenly, the spaceship shook violently as a sticky liquid began to seep in, suggesting something was outside the ship. It turned out a giant slug was engulfing the spaceship. With danger closing in, they tried opening the fuel valve to use the pressure to repel the creature, but it didn't work. The slug's enormous mouth was consuming the ship. Judy concocted a chemical to induce vomiting in the slug, intending to inject it, but the creature's tough skin thwarted her attempt. With the ship swallowed, Judy headed to the storage area, searching for anything useful. She found a sturdy crate. Judy came up with a perfect plan. First, she used cold gas to freeze the cracks in the seat ejection system, giving Maureen a few seconds to get out of the seat. After preparing everything, the two quickly crawled into the sturdy crate. A loud explosion sounded, and the creature spat out the front of the spaceship. The two successfully escaped danger. John and Penny used the ejection seats to land safely. They planned to go to the crashed Fortuna spaceship to find the alien engine and the robot. Upon arrival, they found the spaceship wrecked due to the collision, and the robot was trapped inside. Penny took out a familiar tool from her bag, and they began to saw through the obstacle. However, they didn't know that inside the spaceship, a worm-like creature was causing two electrical wires to short-circuit. The robot emitted a warning signal, danger. The alien creatures detected them, and the two hurriedly turned off the power. At this moment, Penny accidentally saw footage of the aliens infiltrating the Fortuna 20 years ago. She told John, who grabbed the hard drive, and they quickly rescued the robot and left. Meanwhile, Will and Smith were stuck in a tree, with Will's bag caught on the other side of the branch. Will tried to retrieve the bag but almost fell. Smith noticed something peculiar in the bag. It contained the remains of the alien creator that Will had found in the cave. It seemed Will wanted to use this to change the aliens' minds, and he needed to get it. Just as Will was about to grab the bag, it fell, but the robot suddenly appeared. Elsewhere, Don and his chicken fell into a bush. The chicken was pecking at an earthworm, and Don hurriedly tried to stop it. Unfortunately, he stepped into some quicksand, and his shoe began to be swallowed. The chicken disappeared from his sight. To find his chicken, Don chased after it, discovering peculiar, steaming holes in the ground. As he called out for his chicken, danger approached. An alien appeared, and Don had no escape. The alien raised its sharp claws, and Don, terrified, began to pray. Suddenly, a red light appeared, seemingly scanning something. Don drew his knife, but the alien knocked him away, rendering him unconscious. The chicken appeared, seemingly trying to wake Don. Back at the spaceship, the alien emitted a red light, scanning people in the cryopods. This was the first recorded encounter between the aliens and humans. John and Maureen watched the footage from the Fortuna's hard drive, revealing the aliens scanning humans 20 years ago. The daily logs and data were erased by the aliens, leaving only the security camera footage. The purpose of the scans remained unknown. When Don returned, he recounted his encounter with the alien near the quicksand. It didn't harm him, only scanning him before letting him go. Maureen realized the danger. The scans were to locate the human-inhabited planet. This posed a significant threat as the aliens could now track anyone's history through the scans. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Will devised a new plan to prevent an alien invasion. He intended to use the remains of the alien creator to persuade the aliens to coexist peacefully with humans. The robot, worried about Will's safety, tried to stop him. Will insisted that the robot stay to protect his family while he went alone. Understanding the perilous journey ahead, the robot reluctantly agreed. Will drove off, blasting music to attract the alien machines. At this point, everyone on the spaceship realized that Will had disappeared. They found a recording of his heartfelt words in the room. In this urgent situation, they had to take a risk. They activated the spaceship to thwart Will's plan. The alien robots found Will. At that moment, the alien robot recalled everything that happened when it was trapped in the cave. That was why the other alien machines wanted to find Will. It turned out they wanted to know how to change their initial programming. Then they wouldn't have any weaknesses that humans could exploit. Will's negotiation began officially. The golden alien robot instructed the silver one to step back. Will aimed to persuade them to change their mindset, telling them they could become good allies of humans. He even showed them the remains of their creator to convince them that they didn't have to follow orders anymore. The alien robot held up the remains, and Will asked it if it felt sad that its creator was gone. However, it replied that it killed its creator. At that moment, John found Will. The spaceship was preparing to land, and the alien robot was ready to attack him. Will was pierced through the heart by the sharp claws, preparing to fall. Will was brought back to the spaceship by the others, and they began to administer first aid. John, overwhelmed by grief and anger, blamed the robot. He punched it hard, as if to vent his inner turmoil. But he didn't know how sad the robot was at that moment. With Will bleeding profusely, they had to immediately return to Planet Alpha. They intended to start the spaceship to return before the alien robots arrived. The misunderstood alien robot felt very sad. Perhaps except for Will, Smith understood it the most. After comforting it when its mood stabilized, Smith prepared to start the engine. The spaceship quickly ascended into the sky, while the alien spaceship was also flying towards the human planet. 2 space rifts simultaneously opened, and they flew into 2 different rifts, but still arrived at Planet Alpha. A spaceship landed on Planet Alpha, where they took the injured Will to the emergency room. John, worried about humans' fear, left the robot on the spaceship. After Will received timely medical treatment and his life was no longer in danger, they informed their superiors about the impending alien robot invasion of Planet Alpha. However, at this time, humans prioritized the development of science and technology, with no defensive systems in place. Strangely, upon returning to Planet Alpha, they didn't detect the presence of the alien robots. At this point, Maureen noticed something wrong with the planet's energy supply, which far exceeded demand. John remembered their former leader, Hastings, and they went to Hastings' cell to tell him about the impending alien invasion. He also frankly admitted that he had secretly installed a defensive magnetic field network against external enemies, and the password to activate the magnetic field network was known only to Hastings. He demanded freedom and the restoration of his position in return. With no other choice, the two reluctantly agreed. John went to Hastings' house to exchange for the password, but at that moment, Hastings seemed to sense something approaching from outside. He went out to check but found nothing. When he returned, it was too late. The security guard in Hastings had been killed, leaving only a piece of paper of unknown significance in Hastings' hand. Maureen also didn't know what the words on the paper meant. At this point, Grant found a clue and told Maureen that 20 years ago, the Fortuna spaceship didn't go on an outer space exploration mission. It turned out that over 20 years ago, scientists had discovered a space rift in outer space, which no one knew what it was at the time. So the Fortuna spaceship was sent to the other side of the space rift to carry out secret operations, which explained why there was no data on the hard drive. And what they communicated, uncoded as HXSG, also meant that this code was encrypted using Hastings' voice. But now Hastings was dead. Through their conversation, Maureen and John found a new way to activate the defense system. Maureen believed that Ben used to be Hastings' assistant, so he must be one of the people who knew the password. Using videos recorded by Ben, they found words that matched the password and successfully activated the electromagnetic defense system. At this point, the alien robots detected the presence of the magnetic field. Ben tried to sabotage the power supply. John came to stop him and found out that Judy's group had also arrived to thwart the alien robots. She was also detected by the alien robots. Danger was imminent as the robots appeared, but instead of engaging in a fight, they demonstrated strategic thinking. Just when everyone thought they had escaped danger, the city's power supply was suddenly cut off, deactivating the electromagnetic defense system. An alien spaceship was preparing to invade the human planet. To confront the danger, they used the spaceship's energy to restart the defense system. After everything was prepared, the electromagnetic defense network was being opened. At this moment, they noticed the imminent danger as the alien spaceship rapidly approached. The aliens wanted to land before the defense network was fully activated. When the sound of the alien spaceship echoed, the human radio waves were disrupted, and countless debris fell onto the children's evacuation route. The alien robots helped the people to evacuate hastily. We'll notice the strange expression of the alien robot, as if they were searching for something. He discovered an alien engine in a corner. It dawned on Will why the alien creature had been killed by the robot it had created itself. This alien engine not only had the ability to travel through planets, but also contained extremely powerful energy. Once detonated, it could destroy an entire planet. To prevent the alien robots from taking the engine, Will entrusted Penny with this task. As Penny was trying to carry the engine, someone suddenly appeared behind her. It turned out to be Judy, who had also come. The two of them prepared to take the engine away. At this moment, a sharp claw appeared, frightening them. In front of them was the alien robot, pinned down by debris from the spaceship, unable to move. The red light on its face was fading. This meant it was dying. It seemed to be pleading for Penny's help. Despite Judy calling her to leave, after struggling with her thoughts, Penny decided to go back and help the alien robot. She lifted the debris off, and it crawled out and quickly found its lower half. The two parts of its body reconnected. It extended its sharp claw, terrifying Penny, but it didn't attack her. A miraculous scene unfolded as the alien robot also transformed into a humanoid form. The children witnessed this extremely strange sight, and an act of kindness changed the programming of the alien robot. As Judy was transporting the engine, she was detected by the alien robot. In a critical situation, she picked up a rock from the ground, ready to defend herself. The alien robot prepared to attack, but something behind Judy made it hesitate. A group of humanoid-shaped robots appeared. To regain the engine, the modified robots had to face many alien robots, and eventually, they were defeated. John drove the terrain vehicle to take the engine away, but the alien robots discovered them. John's group drove the terrain vehicle into the spaceship, with the alien robots approaching them. Quickly, they stood on the roof of the spaceship. In a desperate situation, John used the Faraday cage principle to discharge the spaceship's energy outward. Outside, the spaceship was covered by a powerful electric source, repelling everything that came close. But if the spaceship ran out of fuel, this principle would not work, and their time was running out. At this moment, the Jupiter ship arrived next to Will, and the robot lifted him onto the spaceship. To end this battle, Will decided to go to the planet of the alien robots. With Dr. Smith's assistance, she piloted the spaceship through the rift in space to the planet of the alien robots. Being injured, Will was very weak, so the robot would take responsibility for this negotiation. They went to find the alien robots, and the robot drew on the mountain wall everything it and Will had experienced. It intended to use this method to persuade the other alien robots. But they didn't understand what the robot was saying, and they all left. The plan failed. The robot took Will outside and placed him inside the metal room of the planet. At this time, thunder appeared. A storm was approaching, and the robot placed its hand on Will's heart. Then it used its body to shield him. Thunder flashed everywhere. The storm howled, and the robot was hit and turned into dust. Will regained consciousness, feeling extremely painful when he saw the robot had turned into dust. Smith told him the robot had disappeared, but he still felt its presence. Dr. Smith prepared to take him back to the spaceship, and the alien robot saw this scene. After returning to the spaceship, Will realized he had fully recovered. Pieces of the robot's heart still appeared in his heart image. Will still didn't know what the robot's last words meant to him. Right at this moment, outside the spaceship, the voice of the alien robot was transmitted. They quickly ran outside. Will suddenly realized this was a command. The robot's actions had caused the alien robots to change. Meanwhile, Maureen's spaceship was running out of fuel. Very quickly, the group of alien robots appeared on top of them. It broke the glass and invaded the spaceship. John and Maureen prepared to take the engine onto the terrain vehicle and escape from here. The alien robots were chasing after them. Unfortunately, the terrain vehicle overturned. The alien robots saw the engine fall out. Maureen picked up the gun, shooting the loosened halide to freeze them. They were instantly frozen. John used a stick to smash them into pieces. He continued to strike the yellow alien robot, but it showed no reaction. It threw him to the ground and activated the alien engine. At this moment, John received an audio message sent by Will. A spaceship was returning. Will had come back. The alien robot was preparing to attack, and Will played that audio message. The alien robot appeared frightened, surrounded by everyone. Will ordered it to shut down the engine, but it resisted, refusing to obey the command. Will had no choice but to turn off the audio message. But then the alien robot stabbed him in the heart. At this moment, a beam of green light entered it. The alien robot gradually lost consciousness and transformed into the form of a robot. It turned off the engine. The alien robot had returned. It turned out that everything was part of the alien robot's plan. All the inhabitants of Planet Alpha were saved. Humanity escaped the attack of the alien robots. As the era of peace among the planets arrived, people began a new life. Smith no longer sought to evade the mistakes she had made. She was put in prison awaiting trial. People gathered together again, and humanity embarked on a new journey of exploration. The movie concludes here. Congratulations on finishing another great film. As usual, on a scale of 1 to 10, what rating would you give this movie? Please leave your answer in the comments below. Thank you for watching our video. Goodbye and see you again.